Bases drop Tuesday thoughts here on SDH AM. Hang on, let me check the hair. The one vanity thing that we always go through every morning, and if things are out of control, then you try and smash them under the headset. All right, kind of a good start. Anyway, I probably should have gone with the hat. John, here you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. Here's the rundown for the morning, and it's pretty stacked. We've got to go through World Cup qualifying because today's a big day. CONCACAF Thunderdome is tonight. Paramount Plus, and it's so big that Paramount Plus is actually doing a Golasso show about it. So 6 games going on simultaneously. We'll go through all the juice boxes, go through the scenarios, walk through it, and it's going to be nuts tonight. So if you have nothing going on your planet, or if you just want something on in the room while you've got other things going on, dial up CONCACAF Thunderdome tonight. We'll find out who's in, who might be playoffing, all the things. That's tonight. We'll go over that as we go this morning. Coming up in about 10 minutes, KCD, where you be? We'll find out where Kacey White is. We'll go through the brackets in the NCAA tournament. We'll also talk about the NWSL now that we're down to the final 2. We're going to spend a lot of time with the NWSL this week. We're going to spend a lot of time with the NWSL today. We're going to try and track down Jessica Charman. She just got the sign. So we're going to try and track down Jess because she is heading west to be a part of the broadcast team on Sirius XM. We'll get her thoughts on it as we get later on in the week. And we'll see if she is feeling better about flying, period, because we know how she is about flying. So Kacey White's going to join us. We're going to talk NWSL in college. That's going to be 9:15. 10 o'clock, we're going to find out what's going on in Grand Rapids, Michigan, because AC Grand Rapids, the new MLS NEXT PRO franchise in 2027, they have a club president. And for those of you that may know your ACC-ness, Darrius Barnes, former New England Revolution player, front office at Crown Legacy in Charlotte, kid from the Research Triangle, went to Duke. 10 o'clock, he's going to join us because he's leaving North Carolina for a gig, and the gig is club president at AC Grand Rapids. We'll find out the why, how he's doing, the adjustments, the challenges, because they're coming on in MLS NEXT PRO in 2027. So they've got a bit of a runway. And when you mention Grand Rapids, it's Van Andel, DeVos, and Grand Rapids. It's like the 3 things about Grand Rapids. So we'll find out about the why, find out about the challenges, how he's hit the ground running, all the things for a guy that played for the Revs and played at Duke. And he's heading north, or he's headed north. We'll find out if he's in his office or if he's getting coffee or chilling or what. But Darrius Barnes is going to join us at 10 o'clock. The new club president for AC Grand Rapids as they get ready for MLS NEXT PRO in 27. 10:45 to put a bow on the show this morning. It's going to be Jenn Hildreth. Jen's going to join us to talk about NWSL to ATL, considering that she's based here at SDH HQ. And we'll find out what it's like for her to see that come back full circle for 28 NWSL season with Jenn. Find out what she thinks about Vlatko Andonovski just surrendering the head coaching duties for one of the most successful franchises in NWSL and one of the great roster builds. He's going upstairs, coaching vacancy in Kansas City, and I'm sure we'll catch up with KCD and find out what she thinks about that too. But Jenn Hildreth's going to join us. We'll talk college. We'll talk NWSL. We'll talk NWSL to ATL. Anything else on her mind as she joins us at 10:45, and she'll close out the show this morning. Once again, remember tomorrow, it is going to be Tyler at 9:15. We'll see if we can track down Dylan Butler, the busiest man in the Northeast, at 10. Jason Stevens, we caught up with him, and we found out about MCOs when they don't work, specifically Black Knight and what happened as Bill Foley sold his 25% in Hibbs back to them. Fenway Sports Group can't quite figure out what sport they want to do unless they just want to be like in one of everything. It's like, I like something here, I like something here, I like something here, I like something here. So we'll discuss Black Knight, Fenway Sports, when MCOs really don't work. That's this week's topic, and we'll catch up with Jason. Power Hours on Thursday, Nino and Nico, getting you ready for the weekend, obviously, in Major League Soccer with all of the action there. We're going to catch up with some of our friends and see if we can track them down and find out what they're thinking as they get into their playoff activity as well. Catch up with our friends at Major League Soccer also as well, and find out who wants to join us at 10 o'clock on Friday morning and catch up with our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. So that's the week. Like I said, we're going to spend a lot of time heading toward the NWSL Championship. We've also got the USL Championship to talk about with Tulsa And with Pittsburgh, we've sent out some feelers there. Hopefully that we can get joined in that run from either the FC Tulsa side or from the Pittsburgh side, or hopefully both. We can find out what's going on there as they get ready for the USL Championship, and we'll talk about that. Effort Kaylor Hodges as well. If not this week, and next week, because we've got to go through the USL Championship senior yearbook and find out what he thinks about the season in general, as we're leaning toward a champion. And next week we will have a champion. So we'll catch up with Kaylor when we can and find out what's on his mind as we get ready for the end of the USL season. And then the decisions that are going to be made there with coaches and with teams and with folks that are wandering in the door. And we'll find out what's on everybody's mind. So there's a lot to get into this week here in general. And it's going to be very, very interesting with everything that we've got going on. Because just because one season isn't going doesn't mean that there aren't others. And there's always stuff to talk about. We're always chasing after stuff attached to the cup that the world is chasing after. Something that we are going to be starting next week. We're going to try and catch up with as many of the host cities as possible and kind of do it on a recurring basis, find out about progress, what it's like for them to be building, what the infrastructure is looking like, what progress is looking like, what's the capital investment looking like, all those things. So when we have this tournament coming up in June and July, we can know about each market. And so Monday, we're catching up with Toronto as a host city, and we'll find out what's going on there, what their progress report is, and that'll be a part of Tuesday next week. But we've reached out to some cities, and we're trying to figure out, they're looking for questions ahead of time, and they're like, okay, well, you want to ask about this, and this? And I'm like, yes, I do. And I'm going to ask about this too. And then who knows where the conversation is going to go. But Toronto's going to be first in the barn. We're going to catch up with them Monday, 6 days from now. And that'll be on a week from today. So it'll be part of the larger picture as we get ready for the world competition where everybody's chasing after clubs. And someone has decided for the first time in God knows how long to try and ring the home phone. I guess that's opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, because you've got to have a QR code and things like that to get things moving. Here's your QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You start your day there, and you buy out the store. We want you to buy out the entire store at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. But you can do it for 15% off because you wander into the store at Kickoff Coffee. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay. How many of you, as a rule, still have a home phone? Like, plug into the wall, phone rings, everything happens. I mean, and it's not just this. It's not just this. It's not just that phone that you carry with you every single day of the week. How many of you have these, for those of you that are watching on the video side of things? And how many of you have actual home phones that ring? Like home phones, like wall socket, the whole deal. How many? Show of hands. The reason that we still have one here at the Casa is because of our parents. And it's one of those instances where sometimes the parental unit may not necessarily remember that you have the mobile version attached to your person 24/7, 365, and they only remember the home phone. And so there are times where you will have the parental units dialing, and they'll call the home phone. The beautiful thing about our particular setup through our cable company is that I can look at the television. In this case, I can look at the Big 55 and sit there and see who is in fact calling. So I have the option of not answering, which I do 99% of the time, or seeing if it is in fact one of the parental units that is ready to go, and they've decided to access us that way as opposed to this way. So that's why we still have one. We still have the home phone that's attached to the wall and everything. So that's kind of how things are, with us anyway. is that we have the home phone. I was just wondering because it decided to ring during the opening monologue, and so I look over and I see who it is, and I know that it's somebody who's just dialing up, trying to solicit something, and we get like the same solicitations and everything, and all the same callers that are trying to get money out of you by the end of the year. But seriously, I just wanted to know how many of you still have the home phone in addition to the cell phone or the device that we have attached to our person all the entire time. We're going to ask KCD this question, and we're going to find out if KCD actually has a home phone in addition to the cell phone. So, KCD, do you in fact have just this portable device when you're having conversations with people, or do you have a home phone, or do your parental units or any other units that are of a generational north of us, do any of them have the home phones?
Oh gosh, no. I do not have a home phone. I don't know if I've had a home phone since I was in high school.
So you're saying like 2 years ago?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I literally just got out. Are you kidding me? No, circa. I graduated high school 2002, so I'll give my age. But I did have a home phone then.
Right.
My grandparents had home phones their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So I did always have that and was like, what is going on? But we're so accessible anyways. We don't need another route to be contacted. So
Well, but this is actually the other route because we had the home phones first, though.
you're right. Because it's more mobile. I think we should go back to home phone only days, honestly. Like, it's amazing how much this thing dictates our life. I've got it sitting right here. So I'm with you on that. I get it. I'd like to throw it out the window sometimes.
Look, I'm right there with you. But yeah, no, the reason I brought it up was because before you came in this morning, literally, we still have, because of parental units that are just locked into the idea of calling a home phone instead of remembering what your cell phone actually is. And so that's why we still have it here, because parental units will call and we can sit there and look at it and go, yeah, okay, it's them that's calling, and we can pick up instead of somebody who wants to donate, $30 a month for a cause that you have no care about. And they're going to sit there. Well, before you go, one of those kind of things.
Yeah. I remember my grandmother would text me. She got a cell phone eventually, and she would just sign her name at the bottom of every text. Like, even in conversation, she would like put her name and what we called her. And it was the cutest thing. She couldn't quite adapt to it, but she was texting, but then would put her name just in case. I didn't know it came from her phone. So it was great.
There's someone else who's impersonating someone who's just learning how to text on a phone and getting a cell phone. Not like you didn't figure out who it was in the first place, right?
Yeah. No stone unturned. Good job.
NWSL, and the real reason that we brought you in this morning, you and Jenn Hildreth are going to be discussing NWSL this morning as part and parcel to everything. You early, and Jenn will be the caboose to all of this. We're down to the final, and if I had told you that this was going to be the final, what would you have told me going into the playoffs?
Would not have been surprised. I think, I don't know how long ago it was that we talked, but I always thought, we were talking about Washington versus Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always felt like the target was on Kansas City, but Washington was so incredibly dynamic and dangerous that I really felt they had a path to the final. Regardless, they weren't going to see Kansas City, and then so I just really felt like they had the way to go. We talked about it last week with Gotham. I think they just play with a chip on their shoulder, but I'll be honest with you, this matchup versus Orlando absolutely took it to them for the majority of the game. They dominated possession, but they had to defend for long periods of time, Gotham, and they just picked a moment, and Jaden Shaw stepped up and was able to convert. But I've never felt like Gotham was an 8 seed. They are a team that, 1 to 8, them falling to the 8 seed just showed and demonstrated the parity of the league, because I never felt that they were an 8 seed. So anyone in their path, it was going to be tough. But Orlando gave them everything they had, but they figured it out.
How difficult is it as a player / coach to be locked in north of 90 minutes? Because, normally 45 minutes, okay, yeah, you're locked in there. You get your regroup at halftime. You get to say as a coach what you want to adjust and everything. Then 45 to 90, what's happening second half. You might be looking at the clock a little bit. It's like, okay, can this thing move any faster? This clock isn't moving fast enough. Can it really move faster? Can we get this over with and get on to the next stage? How difficult is it to maintain focus as a coach and an athlete from 90 to 90 plus whatever until that final whistle goes?
It can be hard. I think it depends on the output of the game. And Gotham had been defending for long periods of time. Orlando had been attacking for long periods of time. And so there's an unconscious thing that can happen where you feel like more of the same is just going to occur. And so it can be a little bit mind numbing and hard in those moments. But I think a lot of the best players really ramp it up towards the end of games. They realize that these are the moments that other teams are susceptible, and there might be a little bit of a lack of focus or just physical fatigue where there's a foul here, a foul there, things that give another team an advantage. So at the level that these players are at, I think it's very minimal differences because they've been there, they've done that. So they don't really just sit there and go, oh, I'm not going to focus right now. But when fatigue sets in, I think it can affect things.
So when I mentioned this matchup, obviously the atypical 8 being Gotham and the 2 being Washington, in the playoffs in general to this point, who has been your up to this point of the playoff MVP?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think Jaden Shaw and the impact that she's had for Gotham, you have to state her in the conversation because of her ability to get goals and to get assists and being new to the roster. It hasn't been that long that she's been on the roster for Gotham. We all forget about her age. I think maybe it might have been Jen, it might have been Leanne that said it in the broadcast that we kind of forget how young Jaden Shaw is. So not only what she's been able to do and how she's played, but the impact that she's had on this run, I think she really stands out. And then you look at Kwasi, you look at Gift Monday, the combination of those 2 players. Croy Bethune has stepped up very big. I'm sure there's some defensive ones, but I'm going to go with the attacking ones for the start.
As you should. I mean, that's just kind of how we are. We're offense first team. It's an offense first
Exactly.
team. You mentioned being the new person. How difficult is it being the new kid at school and having to hop in immediately to try to sit there and fit in and then figure out who your personality is and what it can be in a new location? How difficult is it to be the new kid at school?
It's hard for every person to go to a new place, but I think that it takes a special personality to be able to adapt quickly. Some people take longer than others just because of their natural instincts, their personality, what makes them feel comfortable, all those types of things. But sometimes, and this happened in my career, when you get traded, you feel like it's a breath of fresh air. So you're bopping around like it's, the first day of school and you're excited. And so it can help the adaptation a little bit easier, and you're able to slide in there a little bit easier and have impact right away.
You mentioned age and how Jaden Shaw isn't. There's a player in Orlando, and like I said, I'd love for Marta to write a book or come up with some kind of video tutorial about how to continue to be a top athlete in her sport at the age that she is. And I mean, she's 29, repeating. And for her to continue to be at that level, it's insane to me what she's able to continue to produce, even though this time around Orlando falls just short. Is Marta still underappreciated for what she's able to do at that stage of her life and career?
I don't know if she's underappreciated necessarily, but I do think that people forget the age she's at and how long she's been doing it for. When I played against her in Sweden, I was 22 years old. She would have been 20, and she was playing for Umeå, who's the best team in the Swedish Damallsvenskan. And she, in a lot of ways, impacts the exact same way she did at 20 years old. Her game has changed. I think she would probably say her game has evolved in a lot of ways, and maybe physically she has to do some different things. But I think you're right, honestly, is what she does off the field. Like, what is the cheat code of what she does to make sure that she recovers well? She had the ACL injury. She's come back strong from that. I think it's more of those pieces, the nutrition, how she recovers, what she does, and then the decisions she makes on the field. But I would argue her impact is no different as far as the level of it that she has for any roster that she's on.
She's going to turn 40 in late February, mid-February, February 19th. So next February, she turns 40. How many more years, and this is probably a dangerous question to ask, and I think I know what the answer is going to be and what it should be. How many more years do you think she can compete?
I think she goes through the next World Cup.
Okay.
And I think that's just because it's right there in her mind. She's already knowing she's going to play in the NWSL. So I would think at least 2 more years. I don't know. I think she could go as long as Marta can physically go, to be honest with you. If she still loves the game, if she's still competitive, which obviously she is, we see that, all that passion every time that she plays. But I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the career is, do you still love it? Can you still have impact? And can you still be competitive? And so if she can do all of those things, who knows? Who knows? Obviously, time catches up with all of us, and it certainly will with Marta as well. But everyone can argue it hasn't yet. So
bite your tongue about catching up with everything. How difficult is it to change your game as you get older, knowing what you can do and what you think you can do end up being 2 different things? How difficult is it to adjust to who you are, knowing that you were a certain player with a certain approach in one point, and then as you know, you hit your mid-30s, you're asked to do certain things? How difficult is it to change your DNA when it comes to being out there on the field?
It can be incredibly hard to reconcile what your body used to be able to do to what it can do now, speaking as a former athlete, and also to do that on the field as well. But I'm going to argue this. There's so many times I say, gosh, if I could play now with what I know about the game, what I understand about the game, with what I see about the game, the older I get, the more I understand it. Man, I feel like I could go back and be such a better player. Marta's doing that in real time. She's doing that under pressure. So I actually think, too, she understands the game at a higher level than she ever has. She's reconciled in her mind just by watching her performance what she can do. And she's figuring that out and how to put it on the field. So I think she has figured out how to do that and has done it quite seamlessly.
Yep, and it's scary what she's able to still do at the age of 39/40. It's just amazing to see what she is accomplishing, and I know that she wants to wrap up as much as possible, as many titles as possible between the time now and when she retires at the age of 74. Where's your mug, by the way?
Oh, don't worry, it's here.
Just checking.
Got Ramesses.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm in full alum mode for a couple of weeks. It's going to be great until the College Cup. So.
Yeah, I see how this works. Where do you want to start when it comes to the college ranks? You want to start with the women's tournament?
Yes, let's do the women's tournament first.
All right, so let's go bracket. Let's go quadrant by quadrant, and I'll kind of blow through. I'll go through what we've got here, and basically, it's almost like cliffhanger on The Price is Right. Just go stop, and we'll start.
I love that.
All right, so Notre Dame shuts out UIC as the #1 upper left. No real shock there. Then it's looking like 2 days' time. So on Thursday at 6, it's Notre Dame and Ohio State. Ohio State shut out the 8th seed Georgia 2-0. I don't know how much of a surprise that is for, Ohio State out of the B1G knocking off Georgia. Baylor advances. Wisconsin advances. You've got chalk there. Florida State takes care of Samford, and it's SAM, not STAN. So Florida State advances. They get the wild card. Lipscomb knocks off Mississippi State in the 6 as 1-0 there. West Virginia advances to take on.
I'm going cliffhanger. I love The Price is Right, so I'm so glad you gave me that opportunity. Since we're talking about my grandparents, that reminds me of them too, growing up. But Lipscomb, I got to catch the last about 30, 35 minutes of that game versus Mississippi State.
Okay.
And they, at times, were literally in a 6-back system and were player for player marking and goal, all 11. They had earned that first goal, and they sat back, and Mississippi State had a really hard time with speed of play and moving the ball, shift them, or taking on the 1v1. And so I'm only bringing that up, not because Mississippi State did a horrible job with it. It's because that is so incredibly hard to play against. So a team like Florida State, who's going to face them, has to be very careful early. I think if Florida State's sharp, this is a game they're going to win. But if they give up a set piece early, a goal, you just allow a team like Lipscomb to sit in. You can't allow that because they showed that they could sit in and make it very uncomfortable.
Yeah, you had to remind me of that with the alma mater, didn't you?
I know. I don't think it's going to be a problem for Florida State, but I honestly didn't think it was going to be a problem for Mississippi State either. So it's just that first 10 minutes I think Brian Pinsky will focus on to make sure Lipscomb doesn't get any reason to go back into that defensive shape even any more than they already have.
and you keep an underdog in a game, they're going to sit there and grow into it and become more confident and more confident and more confident. And then the heavy favorite's going to sit there and go, uh-oh, you're going to have that uh-oh moment that you've got to navigate to in a match like this.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. So West Virginia, Georgetown, that's upper left. That's the 2-7. That's no surprise. Okay. Low left. TCU shuts out Grambling. Memphis, the 7 seed, takes care of Illinois. Texas Tech over Texas San Antonio. The only place apparently that there is no offense in Texas Tech by comparison is on the soccer field, because take the over in college football every single week. And then some team called North Carolina took care of business, knocking off the number 3 team in Tennessee 3-1. So North Carolina advances 5:00 Eastern time Thursday. Texas Tech the 6, North Carolina. I'm going to stop it here. What's going on?
Well, our conversation last week aged well because they were able to get the win. I really felt that the Tar Heels, if I take off my alum hat and I put on my analyst hat, it is just very hard to win multiple games against top teams unless you are a top four contender, top 5 contender in the country. So I felt this was going to happen, but Tennessee gave them a fight. They came back. North Carolina figured it out. But that matchup with Texas Tech is going to be very difficult. If North Carolina gets through that, I'm quite nervous about the next matchup. But they'll worry about Texas Tech first and then worry about either facing Memphis or TCU. But it is now a bit of a gauntlet. So I think they have a good chance against Texas Tech. So we'll see.
LSU knocks off Houston Christian as the 4. Iowa Chalk knocks off the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State 1-0. So it's the 4 and the 5. And then Del Schaefer, who is based in Charleston, has been waving frantically and pointing at the low left part of the bracket because Clemson, the 8, knocks off Liberty, and Vandy shuts out Tennessee Tech. So Clemson and Vanderbilt, Vandy the 1 seed, 8:00 on Thursday night Eastern time.
I was noticing that Del Schaefer was commenting multiple times in a row, so I'm glad we got to this. I'm going to say this. All 9 teams of the ACC advanced through the first round, the only conference to do that. The SEC only had 4 of their teams advance through. So this just speaks – Del's laughing now. It speaks to what the ACC does and what it prepares you for. So that being said, I'm an ACC gal. I would love nothing more than to see Clemson be able to pull off this upset. Vanderbilt, though, did go through a hard SEC tournament. They're playing extremely well. But when you go to the first round and you see that only 4 advanced out of the first round of the NCAAs, was it that hard of a gauntlet? I don't know. It was, yes, but maybe not as hard as we would have originally thought. So I think there's an opening here.
All right. Right-hand side of the bracket, we'll start upper right. The interlopers in the ACC and Stanford are the 1, and they get Alabama, who win over Northwestern in PKs in a 1-8. So Chalk comes through there late night on Friday, if my math is right. Yeah, Friday night. Friday night, Stanford and Alabama. Then you've got BYU, who advances in PKs over the Aggies of Utah State, UCLA over Pepperdine. So the 4-5 and the 1-8, you get Chalk there. Then you end up with Colorado as the 3, more Chalk. Xavier knocks off Dayton, so the 3 and the 6. And then Wake, a 2-1 winner over South Carolina. Michigan State, a 4-1 winner over Milwaukee. So Chalk upper right, where everybody works their way through in the seeds. Wake the 7 and Michigan State is the 2 seed. That's dinner time on Thursday.
I think that's going to be a hard one for Wake Forest. I don't know what the ceiling is for Wake Forest, but it's NCAA tournament time, so anything can happen. That's what happens in soccer. One day there can be this magnetic field around the goal and teams won't score, but it'll go the opposite direction. So you never know. I have a hard time seeing Stanford lose. I really like Alabama. I think that they're a very good team. But Stanford just scores so many goals. So you have to almost come up against a team that can score just as many. That's why a team like Virginia and Notre Dame gave them runs for their money in the ACC tournament, because they could also score a lot of goals. But no one is figuring out how to stop Stanford. And I don't necessarily think Alabama's going to be able to, but we'll see.
All right. So then put on your coach's hat. How do you stop Stanford?
Oh, pray. No, just kidding. I think with Stanford, they play a really interesting 4-3-3. And what I mean by that is they commit so many numbers high. Their 2 attacking midfielders almost play on the front line. So at times they have 5 across the front line. I do think you play your normal system. You just have to get pressure to their outside backs a little bit, because otherwise, if you play a 5-back, like a lot of people want to do and just sit back, then they're just raining balls in on your penalty box. So that really doesn't work. That's what Virginia did at first. I think you have to go at them and try to score goals as well. So sitting back is not the normal thing that works with Stanford, like a Lipscomb did with Mississippi State.
See, that was what I was going to ask. If somebody like a Lipscomb sits back and just has 6, then you're saying just, work your way around that 6. I literally was going to ask about Lipscomb and do something like that back 6. If you had that 6-pack at the back, then you really combat it.
If you are very good at defending in your box, you could roll the dice and you could do that for sure. But there's going to be so many times that they're just going to rain balls in or dribble right at you. And they have the individual players to outplay. The thing Mississippi State wasn't doing is they weren't dribble penetrating to pull people out. So I think Stanford has the quality to do that.
Low right, it's all chalk. Duke over Elon, UCF over Maine. So that's your 2-7 at 6:30. Louisville and Kentucky. Yeah, we didn't plan that one for the opening round. PKs, Louisville takes the Duke there. They win in PKs. It was 1-1 after regulation. Kansas over Cal Baptist. So that's your 3-6. Louisville and Kansas at 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon. Washington shuts out the Grizz. They're going to take on Arkansas in a 4-5. Arkansas beat the mean green of Dartmouth. I don't know how green can be mean, but okay. And then Penn State knocked off Army to have the 8 advance. Virginia knocks off High Point 5-0, put 5 on the board there. So it's all chalk low right as well.
Kansas-Louisville, I think, is an interesting game. It's almost, for me, a battle of conferences a little bit. Kansas has been really good in conference. They're a higher seed. Louisville has had to go through the ACC, made the ACC tournament, which we know is incredibly hard to do, especially since the 9 ACC teams are still in the NCAA. So I think that matchup is going to tell us a lot about the conferences. And I'm always interested to see that because I have an innate bias to the ACC, of course, having played in this. I mean, if you didn't notice, I try to, I'm letting my biases fly the last 2 weeks because I can. I normally have to be very careful with that. But I do think the ACC will win out. I think Louisville will win that game, but I still will be interested to see if Kansas is that good. On the other side, I think Penn State, Virginia as well. I have a lot of respect for Penn State. I love Virginia. Steve Swanson does a great job with that team. They went toe-to-toe with Stanford after a tough first half in the ACC semifinals, but Penn State is always well organized. They play a great style. They've been tested this year, so that could be a tough one for Virginia.
All right, so then give me a couple of teams, if we get to a couple, that could be those upset specials while you're sitting there and you're kicked back and Owen is demanding TREATs and scritches. While you're watching all of this action, you have the multi-screen experience going on. You've got every computer, you've got everything all fired up. We know who the favorites are going to be, obviously, when it comes to rankings and things.
Right.
Who's got the tough matchups? Who could step on a rake here in the second round?
Well, I honestly believe that the Memphis TCU game, TCU needs to be careful with Memphis. I've always said I really like Memphis as a non-Power 4 conference. It's the style they play. It's the grit that they play with. And they did fall in their own tournament. It went to penalty kicks. So they're not unscathed. And I love TCU. I think Eric Bell's done a phenomenal job there, and they've had a great season. But anyone playing Memphis, I always am like, watch out. They're a little scary. Their bench is screaming constantly, let's go. And it's just fiery. And so if you let them stay in games or they get that first goal, they're incredibly hard to play against. Super athletic, going forward, pressing high. That could be one that would be an upset for sure that I think they need to watch out for. Other than that, I don't see a lot of upsets. I will say I think North Carolina can beat Texas Tech. I think it's that next round that could be a trip for North Carolina against a Memphis or a TCU. So those would be my 2. All the rest, I think, are either very tight, like a 4-5, whatever the case may be, or the top seed, to me, would be the clear winner.
Yep, and just kind of going through the men's bracket here, it finally has popped out after we finally had all of our Division I conference championships. SoCon had a golden goal, and Furman knocks off NC Greensboro. and it's not a full bracket where you have everybody playing everybody out of the blocks. You have first round buys and you have all this kind of stuff. The Clemson men are playing Western Michigan, and the winner of that one gets the 16 seed Furman on the weekend. Furman comes in as a 16 seed winning the SoCon. And it's all geographically based. So Indiana's your overall 6. Princeton's an overall 3. Good for the Ivy League to get that high. SMU's a 5. Stanford's a 12. Maryland's a 4. North Carolina, North Florida on the men's side, 6 o'clock. You're going to have a busy Thursday with all of your devices up.
I am.
North Carolina, North Florida on the men's side, 6 o'clock Thursday night. Winner of that one gets the 4 seed Maryland in the overall. NC Greensboro, who made it to the championship game in the SoCon and is a certifiable pain in the you-know-what, gets Elon on 5 o'clock Eastern Thursday. Winner of that one gets number 2 Virginia. NC State, your 15. So, I mean, you have teams, once again, out of the ACC that are making seeded runs, but you got a Furman who's a 16, and they're a pain. And then you've got a High Point that's a 10 and Princeton that's a 3. You got some atypical Go 5 conferences that are in those seeded spots that get to watch for a little bit.
And that's an advantage to be able to sit and watch and to have a little bit of a break, especially because it's quick. It's not the longest break in the world. And so if it's really long, then you start to get out of form a little bit. But I think that's a lot of fun. Got to shout out my hometown team, SMU, won the ACC men's. I'm from Arlington, Texas, grew up around SMU, and they had a phenomenal performance. They did get a penalty kick to win, but to take on a Virginia team is really tough. First ACC championship in any sport for SMU in the second year. So that was exciting to see. Now it's, how do you follow that up? Are they that good? Or is it that first round of one that'll trip them up a little bit? I think that's always scary. That's my coach come out of. They need to really lock in because it can be super fun and you can get this overinflated view of where you're at. So how do you use the confidence, but also not think that you're just going to win? It's just going to happen.
A coeducational institution of higher learning in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. By the way, I don't know if you've noticed this. I'm going to get your NWSL prediction here in a second.
Okay.
Off of my shoulder here on the framing, right here.
Okay.
This frame. How well do you know the Pony Express years and follow along with Dickerson, James, and all of that? How deep into that football are you?
Not that deep.
Okay. No worries, because this is, and it's one of the best documentaries that ESPN ever put out in the 30 for 30 series about when SMU football got the death penalty back in the 80s. This is the quarterback that handed the ball off to Eric Dickerson and Craig James during those years. Lance McElhenney. It is an autographed Lance McElhenney SMU football jersey right there.
Nice. Okay. Very cool.
And so it was up for auction, and literally because of that storyline with SMU and the football team getting the death penalty, and I was like, oh, there's the quarterback. And so obviously, I could not resist getting this autographed jersey of the SMU quarterback from the display.
I do know the death penalty. I do understand that. I do know what that is, but not well versed. When you asked me if I was well versed, I was like, I can't say yes because he's going to quiz me on this.
No, he's not. I just didn't know how in depth you knew about like Dave Richards and Eric Dickerson and all that kind of stuff. All right, who's going to win NWSL final?
Washington Spirit.
Okay.
I'm going with them. But if I sit here next week and Gotham won, I will not be surprised in the slightest. Sometimes you just have it going for you and you just have it running a little bit, and they definitely have that. But I think Washington Spirit's going to be incredibly hard to beat. We'll see how Adriana Gonzalez handles Trinity Rodman. She hasn't been playing. It's very hard when you have a star on the bench that's coming back. It's a little bit of playing time. Do you start her? When do you bring her in? Because you don't also want to mess up with the way that they're playing, because they're playing incredibly great. So that's a tough one. But I think that Washington Spirit has the ability to pull it out.
Yep, and we're going to keep an eye on that as we go. As always, it's great to catch up with you, Bat and Leadoff, on Tuesdays. What's your tailgating experience going to be when you're watching all the soccer this week?
Oh, it's going to be right here. Well, not in this seat, in my comfy couch, watching with my puppy next to me. I'm going to have my TV on. I'm going to have my laptop. I may even have my phone. We'll see. I probably won't, because I'll probably be texting people about the results. But I'll just be flipping through games. That's for sure. So Thursday night, check in.
Yep, and we're going to see all of those pictures on social. KCD, it's always great to see where you be and what's on your mind. We'll catch up with you next week. We'll talk more soccer and the college and the women's and the NWSL. Great to see you.
You too. Have a good one.
There goes KCD, and KCD is now going to take Owen out because Owen is going to demand going out. So it's always great to lead off with Kacey White, find out what's going on with the brackets, especially this time of year when it comes to the NWSL and their sprint, and with college soccer and its sprint. Obviously, with Red Clay Soccer Report, we'll keep an eye on things going on in the NAIA and in NCAA Division III. And keep an eye on what's going on with all the tournaments as we have our postseasons going forward here in the footprint. So it's always great. At KCD, KACEYD, the letter D, WHITE, KCD White on the Twitters, which I imagine are still broken. And I'm guessing that they're still broken because, you try to send out a note of all of the folks that are going to be on the show this morning. And apparently, since I'm now receiving messages, it looks like it's back up and running just in time. So, okay. So if you don't have Morning Espresso, that's up and running now. Spain, Scots, Curacao, that's the Morning Espresso. And so it is apparently up and running. And so now the 280 character app is apparently up and running as well. So that's why we couldn't promote anything going on before the show started this morning, because the 280 character app was down. And so that's why we ended up promoting on Instagram and on Blue Sky. But now apparently the 280 character app is back up and running. All right. So tonight it is CONCACAF Thunderdome. It is insanity in CONCACAF. And I'm not overselling it because you have so many teams engaged in so many brackets, in so many groups, that you could have just absolute chaos and you could have everything going completely and totally sideways when it comes to CONCACAF tonight. Like I said, it is going to be one of those situations where CBS, Paramount Plus, has a Golazo set up for all of the matches going on in CONCACAF. That's where you're at. So here's what to expect tonight. And this comes from our friend John Arnold. Group B, Curacao goes directly into the World Cup with a point at Jamaica. Literally, a point. You win or draw. Draw or win, you are in directly. Jamaica goes in with a win over Curacao. So Steve McLaren said he was fine with a point in Haiti, resting players in yellow card jeopardy. He said it again. Even though that win over TNT back on Thursday would have given him the option to play for a home draw rather than Curacao going through, and Curacao could have a kick about it if they so wanted. McLaren said it's always going to come to the last day, to the last game. That's what he remembered telling his staff from Absolute Zero. McLaren said the motivation's there, one for the World Cup, two for the people of Jamaica who have suffered in certain areas the devastation of the hurricane. The mood has been one of determination and focus. We know what they have to do and just hope they can execute that tomorrow, meaning today. Curacao is in an interesting situation. They've got to figure out if they just want to have a kickabout or if they want to push for goals against Jamaica that has scored in every World Cup qualification match this cycle except for that 2-0 loss to Curacao. Curacao has fallen short on the last day before. Got out of the group in the 22 cycle. They lose to Panama. And a flat scoreless draw in Willemstad saw Curacao bow out of the cycle in the second round. Can they risk it again? They take that kickabout. But against Jamaica, can you get that? They've also got to figure it out without Dick Advocaat. It was one of the more stunning things that was released in the information cycle. He had to return to the Netherlands to attend to a private matter initially, because that's what it was listed as. But then Steve McLaren said in his news conference he understood that Dick Advocaat's wife was ill. So the man that has led you to this point has returned home. And I imagine that when he has those moments where he can step away, he's checking in on his squad. Dean Garay, the former Suriname manager, now Curaçao's director of football, works as an assistant, and Advocaat's assistant, Corpat, are now running the squad for the matchup tonight. In addition, they're rallying in tribute to Advocaat, trying to get that World Cup ticket to become the smallest nation ever to make the World Cup. We had Cabo Verde, and now if Curacao gets in, they're now the smallest. And don't think for a second we ain't chasing after them for the whole thing either. Quoting Leandro Bacuna, who told Dutch newspaper AD, "We've come a long way. I remember being at an airport when no flight was arranged. And then I thought, how do we get home from a national team match? But now everything's arranged properly. We have a strong national team. We're going to do it here for the country and for our coach, Dick Advocat." That's Group B. Group A, Suriname and Panama level on points ahead of the Nacios game at Guatemala and Panama's home date with El Salvador. So Suriname and Panama are playing everybody else in the group. They're not playing each other on the last match day. The team that does the best between Suriname and Panama advances. If both win, then it goes to goal difference to figure out which team goes automatically and which team goes to the playoff. Two teams alive, but once again, they're facing other folks. Could Guatemala rest key players against Suriname to help give rival Panama the boost? Right now, Suriname, Panama, both at 9 points, 2 wins, 3 draws in 5 matches. Goal difference right now is to Suriname by 3, +5 to +2. Guatemala's at 5 points, 1-2-2. El Salvador is 1-0-4 and 3 points. Los Chapines, according to John Arnold, likely to make a few modifications. Reality is the current squad's made up of players who've almost all participated either in the Gold Cup run or in the current cycle. Most likely rumor, according to John Arnold, is that Guatemala manager Luis Fernando Tena will risk Nicolas Hagen and start Municipal goalkeeper Kenderson Navarro in his home stadium. Navarro won the penalty shootout to put Guatemala into the semis of the Gold Cup in the summer. Panama vet Alberto Quintero said over the weekend, "I believe in the professionalism of the Guatemalan players. They're with their fans in their country playing a match in which, despite being eliminated, they've got to end well. It'd be a shame if they gift a game," wink, wink. I don't think so, and I don't see it like that. I think they'll go out and play their game after whatever happens. We'll see. Panama manager Thomas Christensen sees some danger in his team thinking that they're playing a distant game with Suriname rather than facing El Salvador, who's going to be right there at the Estadio Rommel Fernandez. Christian said of La Selecta, "It's a great team that comes in here hurt, but with a lot of pride. Tomorrow they're going to defend that pride with a good game. That's the most dangerous part of the game. They can't match or better Suriname's result. Won't matter. Panama's effort needs to be at the max, as does Suriname's. A win guarantees at least a place in the playoff. Both teams in Group A will look to get 3 points, get as many goals as possible, and they'll figure out the rest." Group C. C is for chaos. Haiti is in with a win and a draw in the other match. Honduras also is in with a win, and Haiti, Nicaragua finishing in a draw. Costa Rica would go through on goal difference with a win and a draw in the other match. All three are alive for the playoff. Looks like it'll take at least 10 points to get there, according to John, and meaning it may take something very strange happening for the Group C team to be in the playoff unless both Honduras and Haiti win. So Group C going into today. Honduras, Haiti, both at 2-2-1, 8 points. Goal difference is Honduras's by 2, +3 to +1. Costa Rica, 1-3-1 and 6 points. Goal difference of 2, +2. Nicaragua's out, obviously, at 4 points with a record of 1-1-3 and a goal difference of -6. So 3 teams, 1 spot to go in it automatically, 1 spot probably to get into the playoff. So you've got pedal down in Group C. So Group C is for chaos. Group C says that you can definitely have, it means you can have a lot of fun. Costa Rica was the favorite heading in. Never looked like it was going to a World Cup. Defeat to Haiti and Curacao has all but ended Costa Rica's hopes of making a 4th consecutive World Cup. But they will have that one final run. Keylor Navas and net, etc. Honduras has been in control from the beginning, but they lost to Nicaragua 2-0. And that kind of put everything back in the blender a little bit. A little bit, he says. Despite that work, the loss in Managua has them heading to Costa Rica needing a win, knowing that a point won't likely be enough either to top the group or get to the playoff. Kervin Arriaga has been taking criticism for comments he made before leaving for international duty, saying he hoped to make it back to Levante in time to participate in Friday's crosstown rivalry, a matchup against Valencia. Said at a news conference in Spain, I'm going to try to speak with the manager to see if he gives me the day off to be able to get here. If not, I respect the decisions of the manager or the national team makes. We're a step away from being able to qualify. That didn't work. Now, plenty of fans are wondering if the team didn't understand the challenge that they'd be chasing after in Managua. So your juice boxes heading into this matchup tonight. And we do have European stuff that we do need to get into with numbers and such to lay all of that out. 11 o'clock, though, is when everything starts. Iraq and the UAE, the second match in the reverse fixture. Iraq is a favorite at a plus 148, draws a plus 168, and UAE to wins a plus 238. All of the activity in Europe kicks off at the same time at 2:45. We'll get your juice boxes and layouts in a sec. Costa Rica favored at home against Honduras at a minus 133. Suriname favored on the road at Guatemala at a plus 102. Guatemala, by the way, to win at home a plus 265. Haiti, big favorite as a home team against Nicaragua at a minus 417. Nicaragua was basically a plus 950. Jamaica is a minus 109 hosting Curacao, who is a big dog on the road at a plus 315. Panama minus 667 against El Salvador, who's a plus 1,600. Trinidad and Tobago, a heavy favorite at home against a Bermuda side that is just flat awful. Bermuda's a plus 2070 to win. Trinidad and Tobago is a minus 1250. Iraq and UAE, that's a good question. So let's see. Uh-oh, Abby's got photos. Look out. All right, so should you get Fanatis or Fubo? Let's see where it is, first off, and doing the what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it for today. And let's find out. So Brazil and Tunisia, Cyprus, Estonia. Where is it? 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 So if we're looking for Iraq and UAE, wow, it's not listed as being anywhere on television. Wow. Okay. So I guess we have to find our favorite VPNs, although we neither condone nor endorse that kind of behavior. Wink, wink. Brazil, Tunisia is at 2:30 on BN and Espanol simulcasting. Fox Soccer Plus says Cyprus and Estonia at noon. Austria, Bosnia, Herzegovina at 2:45. Canada, Venezuela is at 4 on FS1. Belgium and Liechtenstein is at 2:45 on FS2. USA and Uruguay, that's the other thing to talk about here in hour number 2. 7 o'clock, TNT, True, and Brazil and Tunisia simulcast on BN Espanol. Fox Deportes, Mexico, Paraguay at 8:30. Costa Rica, Honduras is at 8. Mexico, Paraguay on 2 to NA at 8:30. Universo simulcasting USA and Uruguay. Univision simulcasting Mexico, Paraguay. USA, Uruguay simulcast on HBO Max. All 6 of the matchups on Paramount Plus in the CONCACAF Thunderdome. Colombia, Australia, Ecuador, New Zealand are on pay-per-view. Peacock has USA and Uruguay. But I cannot find, for the life of me, Iraq and UAE. It might be on FIFA Plus. I'm just thinking that it might be on FIFA Plus. That's my first thought. So I would say FIFA Plus and then work your way forward from there, Del. So that's what we're staring at. On the Tom Coughlin scale, and we appreciate this with our guests. Tom Coughlin always said, you're 5 minutes early, you're on time. You're on time, it's okay. If you're late, doors closed, doors locked, you ain't coming into the meetings and you're probably running up, downs, and doing burpees and taking laps and everything. For this next guest, it's the first time that we get to introduce you to what's going on at AC Grand Rapids and what's going on in MLS NEXT PRO as their runway to 2027 has officially started. And we get to catch up with somebody who is the pride of Southeast Raleigh Magnet. We get to find out what's going on with the new, and I feel like we should have like a championship belt, the new club president for AC Grand Rapids. Time to catch up with Darrius Barnes and find out the why and find out what's going on in Grand Rapids. Mr. President, good to see you.
How's it going, John? Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
I mean, the question's more for you than it is for me, sir, because you're the one with the new gig and you've left North Carolina and you've headed up to Grand Rapids and all this stuff. So How's Grand Rapids? He asked for the first question.
Yeah, I mean, Grand Rapids it's a fantastic city. Me and my family haven't quite moved up there yet. I'm still back and forth right now between Charlotte and Grand Rapids, but no, the time we've spent there has been absolutely fantastic. It's an amazing city. Me and my family will have to get back used to the brutally cold weather, but I lived in Boston and New York, so that's nothing that's going to deter us away by any means. So we're looking forward to planting some roots and getting up there permanently by the beginning of the new year.
And my follow-up question is why? What attracted you to this launch with this new franchise in Grand Rapids? What was it about this point of your career being in a front office was like, yeah, I think I'll go there?
Yeah, I think for me, I think first and foremost, it all comes down to the people. When you're working, especially in the sports and entertainment industry, and really any industry, from that matter of fact, you want to work with good people. And for me, my litmus test is working with good people. When you're working in this industry and the highs are high, when you're working with good people, the highs are that much higher. But when there are those days and you're dealing with wins and losses, and you're going to have some low days. And when you're working with good people, those lows are a little bit higher as well. And so, after kind of going through the process and, meeting the ownership group and the leadership team there in Grand Rapids and understanding their track record, for me, it was, really a no-brainer. Their ambition to bring professional soccer and MLS NEXT PRO to Grand Rapids is very high. They're super ambitious and passionate about what they're doing. They're passionate about the Grand Rapids and greater Grand Rapids community, which is something that I can sympathize with. When you're doing this for larger causes and for the growth of the game, and for it to be really a civic asset in the community and add to the civic duty that the ownership is already inputting into that community. We just align, and from a mission and purpose and value standpoint, there was tons of alignment. And me being a passionate and purist of the game, we want to grow the game in these communities and put a city like Grand Rapids even further on the map. I think it's a very, very underrated city, and for me, it's about really showcasing the amazing things that this city has to offer, and through soccer.
Have you always thought of yourself as a builder when it comes to taking jobs like this, or is this something that you're adding to your portfolio of taking and being a part of something from the ground up? Which part of this are you when it comes to franchises?
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me this probably 5 years ago, I never would have really said that. But I feel like the projects and the clubs that are being built seem to attract me. I don't know if it's a magnet. There's some magnetic energy going on there. Obviously, I was at the beginning with Charlotte FC, started there in 2021 and helped build that club, and then helped launch their MLS NEXT PRO team, Crown Legacy FC. And so, it's kind of really become a passion, of mine. But there's really something unique about this project, right? And I really think that this club has opportunity to be really the flag bearer of MLS NEXT PRO. Just from, that we're going to have our own 8,500, 9,000 seat stadium in downtown Grand Rapids. The community support that we're receiving, the excitement in the city that we're receiving. And, this is all coming, at, one of the most pinnacle and, momentous times in our sport, with the World Cup coming here next year, which, I just heard you talking about, the qualifiers. So it's just a great moment and a great time for a club like this to be entering the league, and us leveraging the World Cup to garner that momentum into our inaugural season in 27. So there's just a lot of intangibles and a lot of ancillary components that really excited me and attracted me to this job. And, we have all the opportunity in the world to build something great, especially with the ownership group that we have in the Van Andel family and the DeVos family, and what I've seen from community support thus far.
What did you learn about yourself as a front office person from your time at Charlotte and at Crown Legacy that you think helps you out the most in launching what's going on up there at ACGR?
Yeah, for me, it's about just making sure. I mean, I alluded to it earlier. Just kind of bringing in, the right people and making sure that you're building in the right way. Like I said, I've been fortunate and had an opportunity to be in at the ground level for a couple of these. And I've seen things that have gone, fantastic. And there's definitely some best practices to take. But also think you have to reflect and look at things that you wish you had done a little bit different. And so, I'm a big believer in experience is the best teacher. You can talk about things, you can draw all these strategic plans and map out all these strategic plans, but until you're actually in the weeds and you're executing and doing the grunt work, you really don't know how that's going to play out. And so I've had the opportunity to experience on how some of these have played out, and we're going to do some things absolutely fantastic at AC Grand Rapids, but we know we're going to make some mistakes along the way, or some things aren't going to fall in our favor. There's going to have to be some adjustments. And so with that said, I think the biggest thing I learned is you have to roll with the punches. You have to try to plan ahead as much as you can. You can't just stick with a plan A. You got to have that plan A, B, and C, and have those contingency plans laid out and a playbook of things of, if this goes wrong, where can we look in our playbook, our Rolodex, and figure out, how we can mitigate and stop the leak or shift to make something even that much better. And so I think leaning on some of those experiences from my time at Charlotte FC, as we rolled out that club, and then entering Crown Legacy FC into MLS Next Pro, all those experiences are going to come and be beneficial as we ramp up and start to roll out AC Grand Rapids.
What have you learned about Grand Rapids and the surrounding areas about what soccer means? How ingrained is the sport there in the Grand Rapids area? What have you learned about soccer in Grand Rapids with your time since you signed on?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very passionate city. The youth soccer there is extremely fruitful. I was up there for the announcement event, and we did it around a USA youth soccer event there in town, and just seeing kind of the joy on the kids' faces and the parents' faces and the community, and everyone wanting to reach out and connect and see how their businesses could work with AC Grand Rapids. For me, that really spoke loudly and spoke volume, just in terms of the excitement and the opportunity that we have at AC Grand Rapids to really be a community connector. We have a unique and rare opportunity to bridge to all the different silos of soccer in the city together for one greater cause, and that's for passion of the game and to grow the game. And it's also us as a club. How can we as a club support our community as well for causes within soccer, but those causes without soccer as well? So it's my job to really get in there, get ingrained in the community, understand what's important to the community, and really how we can help. I'm a huge believer that that sports are a civic vehicle in terms of bridging people together and bringing people of all walks together. And I think that's even more so with a sport like football, a sport like soccer, that really has the ability to bring diverse groups of people together for a greater cause.
Darrius Barnes, new president for AC Grand Rapids as they get ready for the 2027 launch in MLS Next Pro, hanging out with us here on the morning show. And one of the things that MLS Next Pro has wanted to do is have the independent ownership, not attached to an MLS soccer franchise where you're in these different footprints, where you see it in Chattanooga and you're seeing it in Grand Rapids and you're seeing it in all of these different places. And it proves that the game doesn't have to necessarily be tied to higher divisions and professional franchises to succeed. What's it been like for you to see the game grow the way that it has, to where you're talking about soccer, professional soccer in a Chattanooga, professional soccer in a Grand Rapids, Michigan, in these, and I'm going to probably put $1 in the jar and go ahead and use air quotes, the atypical soccer market, where you wouldn't necessarily think about it, but you're seeing it succeed? What's it been like for you to see the growth of the game in these atypical soccer markets, in air quotes?
I mean, for me, like I said, being a soccer purist, like seeing the growth of the game it's amazing. Just to, if you would have asked me this, me growing up as a little kid playing on the fields in Raleigh, North Carolina, if I thought soccer would be where it is today, I would have said you're absolutely insane. But that's me being a naive little kid also. And at that time, just seeing how many kids were starting to play the game, and just year over year over year, the participation continued to grow. And so that was really the opportunity, right? As, the game grows with these generations, once you have that passion for the game, it doesn't leave you. You may stop playing, you may not participate anymore, but that passion for the game stays with you. And, I meet so many people, my age and a little bit older that say, I used to play soccer when I was younger. I used to play soccer at this age. And, me and my buddies still, while we don't play, we watch all the MLS matches. We watch, EPL matches. We watch Bundesliga matches, La Liga matches on the weekend. So that passion is there, and it's a continue to capture that and see how we can unfold that and pass those down to the next generation. And so, as these generations that grew up playing the game and they continue to be fans of the game and they pass that fandom down to their kids and they move into these different markets, when I look at it through that lens, I'm not surprised at all. And this is exactly what the beautiful game should be doing, should be growing in smaller communities. And just because you're a smaller market or a smaller community doesn't mean that your passion for the game is any smaller. And so you start to see that in some of these secondary and tertiary markets that have great followings and great fan bases. And that's what we want to do in Grand Rapids. It may not be the first city, on the map when someone else think about soccer, but soccer is going to be paramount and pivotal for the fans in Grand Rapids. And we want to, do everything that we can to amplify that.
As you have grown in your roles in front offices, now that you are sprouting your wings and leaving North Carolina and now a part of things in Grand Rapids, when you have a question about front office-y stuff, who's on your speed dial to sit there and bounce ideas off of, to sit there and go, well, I've got this thought and this is happening here, and I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about this. Who's on your speed dial to bounce ideas off of these days?
Yeah, I mean, that list is long. I think, as when you're I've been fortunate enough to kind of see the game at different levels, whether it was from a youth soccer standpoint, collegiately, professionally, on the front office side. And so I guess it depends on kind of what we're talking, but I'll depend on former teammates of mine through my days at New England when we're talking about player profiles and systems of play. I'll revert to my time at Shaw FC. We're talking about building a club and the business, and we're looking at ticket sales and business intelligence and strategy and how to best optimize and capitalize a stadium. My old boss Joe LeBou is absolute ticketing wizard. Learned a lot from him, from the commercial side of the game, but shifting to the sporting side. I played with some fantastic players. You look at the likes of a Steve Ralston or Shawry Joseph, Jermaine Jones, Lee Wynn, Till Bunbury, players that some have retired and some are still playing in the league, and they've seen this transition, of the league. They've seen, MLS 2.0 and shifting into 3.0. I tell a lot of players now and people I speak with, I'm lucky to have played the game when I did play, because I don't think I could play in today's MLS with just how much the game has grown. When you look at the speed of the game, you look at the quality of players that the league is bringing in. And while the league definitely has room to continue to grow, I think, the league has done a fantastic job just growing at a steady pace. And the World Cup is going to be, momentous moment to continue to catapult that and be a trampoline for this growth trajectory that the league is on. So I'm extremely bullish and excited about the trajectory of where MLS and MLS Next Pro is going.
So when it comes to what's going on there at ACGR, I know that you've got a to-do list. And this is what I ask executives and new coaches and new owners all across the board. This is a universal question that I have. I know somewhere you've got that to-do list. And knowing you probably wanted to start that to-do list about 3 weeks ago and just get moving. Where is that to-do list? Is it on a Google Doc? Is it on a notepad? Is it like something like this that you write down and you've got like 19 legal pads that you've got going on? Is it, the ring binder notebook that's got all these ideas? Is it a Google Doc? Is it on a whiteboard that's like 4 feet by 8 feet long, takes up 2 walls in that space that I'm talking to you in off camera right now? Where is that to-do list of yours when it comes to AC Grand Rapids? And what do you think the next thing you can cross off it is as you continue to get ready for launch?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I need to consolidate my to-do list. I probably have a little bit on some white paper. I have a little bit on an iPad, kind of shifted digital. But lately I've been putting them in my OneNote. Now that I've kind of gotten ingrained with the club, I have my club laptop, I have my club credentials. So I'm trying to consolidate and put things in one place. And right now for me, it's exactly what you said. I have ideas that I'm putting on white paper, just how my vision for the club and collaborating with ownership, collaborating with leadership and understanding what their vision for the club is, getting to Grand Rapids and getting ingrained with, the community leaders and the fans and just getting to know them and understand what their priorities are. All of that is going to really dictate and shape the club. This is going to be a club for the people and for the community. This isn't my club. This isn't me imposing, my ideas, but this is taking the whole community's ideas and trying to build a club that represents that and is representative of that. And so I have a Rolodex of notes that I'm going through, looking at, staffing plans and seeing, where and when, I'm going to need help. By no means is this a one man or one woman show. This is going to take a collective group effort. And so kind of starting there, seeing what our staffing plan looks like throughout 26 and what that roadmap and ramp up looks like through 26, how we're leveraging, the World Cup to garner excitement and to get our brand out in the marketplace and engage with fans of the game. And then obviously, building the sporting side, as well, looking at coaches, looking at support staff and, scouts, and then starting to recruit players. While it seems like 2027 is a long ways away, it is not by any means. And the World Cup is just going to add lighter fluid to that and really ignite things and get things moving more rapidly. But this is the fun part. This is the fun part when you're able to ideate and think about things and figure out ways to be innovative and building a team.
So then I know that you're going to be looking for a particular kind of individual to help you in the build, whether it's administrative or player or what have you. What kind of personality traits are you looking for from those individuals that will get everything there in Grand Rapids off on the right foot when 27 hits? Because as you say, everybody's probably sitting there, 27, yeah, it's just, and you're like, no, you don't understand. 27 is right there, and it's going to come here before you know it. What kind of individuals are you looking for to fill in those spots who get it from launch in a situation like this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for different roles, you need, particular skill sets, and those technicalities will come in play as we go through the process. But I think first and foremost, and I said it earlier, you need to be a good person, and you need to want to do the dirty work. I want to work with people that, roll their sleeves up. They're servant leaders. They want to, exemplify by doing. They want to actually build and get their hands dirty. This isn't a sit up on your perch and, look from above and direct from above. This is everyone collaborating, working together to build a fantastic club and in a club that, the city will be proud of, the city will want to support, and that's going to support its city at the same time. And so, like I said, just being someone who wants to collaborate, that's, not afraid to speak up, not afraid to share ideas. And I think we have to complement each other. We don't need a lot of people that are duplicative, doing the same jobs, right? You want pieces of the puzzle that fit and work together, because, when you're building a club, that's what it's really going to be about. There are different components, whether it's the operations and the partnership and the ticket sales and the marketing campaigns. And then that builds the collective kind of flywheel and the strategy of how we roll things out. And so it's not just, let's just throw things together and hope it meshes together. They're strategically putting the pieces of the puzzle together and making sure everything fits properly, works well together, and ultimately runs as smooth as possible. It's not going to always run smooth. We're going to have to, fine tune the car a little bit. We're going to have to rotate the tires, sometimes and shake things up. But if you can go into it with, a sound strategy of how you want the pieces of the puzzle to fit together, I think you have a good foundation to build on.
What's more of a challenge, starting a franchise or getting an MBA?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think starting a franchise, because I mean, getting the MBA, it was great, but it's structured and you have things laid out. I knew exactly what courses I was going to take. I knew which courses were going to challenge me the most. I knew where I needed to spend some more time. But for this, there's no playbook really. Like I said, I've done it in one respect before, but this is a completely different project, and this is a completely different city, different community, and so it brings its own unique challenges. But these are fun challenges. These are the things I get excited about, and for me, come March 2027, when we open up at home at Amway Stadium and seeing the faces of kids that are aspiring to be professional soccer players, and seeing the fans and the supporters cheering on the club, and seeing players step out onto the pitch for the first time, that's when that's all worth it.
And we're looking forward to seeing the growth of it, because we know that it's just around the corner. No matter what the calendar says, it is just around the corner. 2027 season in MLS Next Pro is going to get here before we all know it. We're all looking forward to it. The new man in charge in Grand Rapids. Darrius, it's great to see you. Congratulations on the new gig. We're going to be keeping an eye on it. We're going to be knocking on your door to ask about the progress report, see the office space and the hermetically sealed all glass window with the window at the back and all of the meeting rooms and everything. Safe travels, getting everything uprooted and heading up there. And I know that you're going to be probably staring at Michael Jordan and Eddie Pope posters, trying to sit there and figure out what the next steps are when it comes to the build up there in Grand Rapids. Thanks for dropping by the morning show. I'll be knocking on your door as soon as everything gets ready for 27. Thanks for dropping by.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
There he goes. The new man in charge, AC Grand Rapids, Darrius Barnes. If the name's familiar, you're like, yeah, New England Revolution, that guy. Yes. Duke, Revs, AC Grand Rapids, Charlotte FC in the front office, Crown Legacy. We're at Crown Legacy. He got to see folks like Nemfasa Berkemas, Big Pat Ajimong, a lot of folks that worked their way through the system, were a part of things at Charlotte FC. You see what Berkemas is doing at the U17 national international tournament, the World Cup, representing his country. And he is a handful when it comes to Crown Legacy and what they're trying to do in wins and losses on a daily basis. You know what Big Pat is up to? Big Pat is now overseas. It's all about that project development as well. So it's great to see what's going on up there in Grand Rapids. And I can't thank Darrius enough for dropping by, especially as he's uprooting his life from the Charlotte area and Charlotte FC to head up to Grand Rapids to start something new. So that's what it's like to build something new, and it's great to catch up with Darrius and find out about what it's like to be named the new guy, new club president, to start something new that's going to be. And when you think about Grand Rapids, it is literally DeVos Van Andel. The Van Andel Arena goes back to the Grand Rapids Griffins of the American Hockey League. And so it is DeVos, it is Van Andel, and that is Grand Rapids. And Darrius Barnes is now heading into that as the new club president there at ACGR. So I can't thank the club enough for letting him answer our questions on a daily basis. So the first president of AC Grand Rapids as they get ready for MLS Next Pro in 2027. So that's the stuff that's going on there as they continue to grow in MLS Next Pro. And so I'm trying to see, because I think we had some news. Yes, thank you, Ricky. The year-end roster moves are out for Atlanta United. So I guess that means what we probably need to do is this. Came out at the top of the hour, and so here's what we're staring at for Atlanta United. Announced the year-end roster moves ahead of the 26th season. And once again, it is 19 players under contract. Club exercised options on 6, remains in discussions with another on a potential return. And so while we are on the morning show tomorrow, that is when they're going to be having their year-end discussion. Contract options exercised on Matt Edwards, Jay Fortune, Jaden Hibbert, Will Riley, Jamal Tiare, and Cayman Togashi. Declined Leo Alfonso, Josh Cohen, Brooks Lennon, Ronald Hernandez, Nick Sessick. Atlanta remains in negotiations with Ronald Hernandez. So Noah Cobb currently on loan with Colorado, who have until December 15 to exercise a permanent trade option. MLS offseason begins December 10. I thought it was the 11th, but it's the 10th. Free agency opens at 1 o'clock, December 11. And so December 10th show might just be getting ready for everything when it comes to MLS free agency. December 11, reentry process stage 1 at 1 o'clock. End of year waivers process closes at 5. Reentry stage 2 takes place on the 17th. Super draft held on the 18th. Atlanta with the number 2 pick consists of 3 rounds. Atlanta United 3 selections, including the number 2 overall. Off-season calendars available by going to the MLS website. So once again, options exercised. No surprise, really. Edwards, Fortune, Hibbert, Riley, TRA, and Togashi. Options declined. Afonso, Cohen, Hernandez, Lennon, Sesic. Brad Guzan retires. Club remains in negotiations with Ronald Hernandez. So once again, current roster, the one keeper in Jaden Hibbert. Defenders, Amador, Barakal, DCQ, Noah Cobb, and we mentioned Noah's situation. Matt Edwards, Gregerson, Mihai, Caden Moore. Caden Moore is a homegrown effective on January 1st. Midfield, Miguel, Alzate, Fortune, Saba, Alexi, Mosqueda, who's on loan to Millonarios through the end of June. Muyumba, Riley, Sanchez, Sleesh, Torres. Forwards, Brennan, Gordon, Latelot, TRA, Togashi. So the takeaways here, once again, options declined. Afonso, Cohen, Hernandez, Lennon, Sesic. I think if you looked at Brooks's price point, that was probably one of the main reasons why. In negotiations with Ronald, Ronald is fairly financially viable, if I remember correctly. You're looking at 200 and something thousand. I mean, it's not necessarily an earth-shattering number for Ronald. Going back and look at options and salary and the salary guides as of October 1st. The options that were picked up, and you figure that it's going to be somewhere in those regions. So here's what you're staring at. So Leo Afonso was a rookie min at 80,622. You have Noah right now at 109. And so I mentioned Noah just because technically he is still associated with Atlanta, even though the trade option is still there. So Josh Cohen, Josh's number was complete compensation just under $328,500. $289,992, and then full compensation $328,492. Then you have next one on the board is Ronald. Ronald, $290,750. So I mean, for a right back who can pretty much do anything, he's just listed as a right back at the MLS Players website. $290,750 total comp. So I think that Ronald is he is a financially viable option who can play pretty much wherever you need him to play. And having those kinds of players in your roster, invaluable in a salary cap league. And once again, we mentioned the others, Brooks Lennon and Nick Sesic. Brooks Lennon, his number, $740,000. You can understand why that decision was made. Nick Sesic, 104, so it was a bit of a veteran bump in salary, so $104,000 for Nick. And keep an eye on Nick and see if he ends up cycling back to the twos when all of the processes kind of just work themselves out. But yeah, Nick Sesic at 104. But the biggest salary that was not renewed was Brooks at 740. Options that were picked up. Togashi, let's work backward considering that this list is in alphabetical order. Togashi, 104. Jamal at 730 total comp. So Jamal was a 700,000 base, 730 total comp. Then you have Will Riley, and I think Will and Hibbert and Fortune and Edwards. Will's at 80,000. So rookie men, 80,622. Jaden, 80,622. Then you have Jay at 109. And you have Matt Edwards, who is at 80,622. So a whole lot of no-brainers in that batch of renewals, especially from a financial standpoint. Obviously, Jamal's at 730,000. That's your big ticket item that you renew. But the biggest takeaway, Brooks Lennon not renewed. Ronald Hernandez still in negotiations at about $270,000 on his old number. So not a whole lot of surprises in who was renewed and who was not. So we'll keep an eye on that for Atlanta United, working your way forward. Jenn Hildreth set to join us in about 15 minutes, and we'll run through the NWSL with Jenn. We'll talk about NWSL to ATL. We'll talk about the final, talk about Vlatko Andonovski and how much of it was a surprise. And so we'll get into all of that coming up with Jenn in just a little bit. And yes, 35 degrees in Grand Rapids today. You should feel cold. Yes. Club's identity created in partnership with Matt Wolf Design, did the new battery logo on almost every other soccer logo. So Matthew Wolf. Yes. Would anyone in the world still know Tom Coughlin if not for John's mentions 3 times a week? Doubt it. John is 108 years old and likes those kinds of references. I don't know of any other reference that has been made about being on time for meetings or being early for meetings. I'm going to try something real quick. Somebody. Okay, so Dell says that the matchup, the 11 o'clock matchup, Thanatis and Fubo. We'll tell you what. At 11 o'clock when we're wrapping up with Jenn, I'll go over to Thanatis and see if it's there. We'll do that. But I'm going to take a pause for a second. I'm going to see if somebody is going to continue to make noise because I can actually hear Rowdy through my headphones. I'm wearing headphones, and I can still hear Rowdy snoring. I'm going to try something. And, of course, the second that I try this, he's either going to wake up or stop doing it. So I'm going to try something. Let's see if we can pick him up. I'm going to take my headset off really quickly and see if we can pick him up snoring real quick. Hang on. I don't know if you caught him, but he was snoring. So it was like that one big snore. So, of course, I took the headset off and he stopped snoring. But there was like the one big snore. So, yeah, it was like one big snore. And of course, like I said, the second I took the headset off, then he was going to stop snoring. So, anyway, he's snoring, and I heard it over the headsets, and I figured that that we'd hear it. Okay, that's just me. All right. No, I don't. And to the point about keepers, you've got, and Ricky's like among Hibbert, Ransom, you got Donaldson that's there, James Donaldson. I don't know I don't think you necessarily need to draft one, but if you bring in a Carlos Coronel or a Joe Willis or someone to make it a 1 and a 1A, then maybe that's what you do between the sticks. You come up with an experienced number 2 and see what's up. So keep an eye out on free agents and teams and everything between now and then, and who might be sending keepers out on to look for their next gigs. So that's what I'm thinking anyway. So let's see. There were some other clubs, since we're mentioning clubs, that are announcing their end of season decisions. So we'll see. There were a couple of things that teams had mentioned. Teams were making their year-end moves. We'd mentioned what was going on in Nashville. Orlando City yesterday made theirs known to humanity. Declined options on Carlos Mercado, Shaq Muhammad, and Fabian Loyola. Cesar Arujo and Pedro Gillespie out of contract. Negotiations with Robin Johnson and Kyle Smith. New contract for Wilder Cartagena. And so Orlando City has only 5 players leaving, but you've got to figure out what you're doing with Gillespie. Robin Johnson's in talks about a new deal after the contract was declined. There goes snoring again. Luis Muriel, you got to keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on Alex Freeman. You could open up DP slots with those additions, and you wonder what Orlando City is going to be doing. So Orlando City has a couple of interesting declines, a couple of interesting out of contracts. Gillespie, I forgot to mention Gillespie, but Gillespie is going to want to get paid. What did Pedro Gillespie make last year in the last year of his contract? No, that's not what I'm looking for. Stop it. All right, so last season, Pedro Gillespie, as an idea, Pedro Gillespie made $1,250,000, $1.25 million. He's not going to make that with his next deal. Wasn't going to make it in Orlando, and he's not going to make it with his next deal. So you're looking at Coronel and Willis in the neighborhood of 600 to 650. Pedro Gillespie twice that. Sean Johnson's on the market. So you try and find someone that you're going to go 1 and 1A with Jaden Hibbert to challenge him for one more season. That, to me, would be the interesting aspect of all of this. Who would be that 1A? Or are you just going to let Jaden ride? And you have Donaldson, and you've got just that list that Atlanta United has. John O'Ransom, Jaden Hibbert, James Donaldson, and you've still got some in the academy that are working their way up as well in the 15s and 16s. What do you do with Atlanta United? Do you roll the dice and just let it be Jaden's and come up with an experienced backup? Or you just let it ride and have it be John O'Ransom, James Donaldson, Jaden Hibbert, and the rest? That would be the big question for me anyway when it comes to the keeper situation and Atlanta United. So you're probably going to be drafting at the number 2. I assume that you're going to think that individual is either going to be on your bench or is going to be someone, Michael Miles Robinson. Do you have that kind of an impact player in the super draft? That's the big question. Is that individual going to be what you're staring at the number 2 in the super draft? Okay, so we got into CONCACAF Thunderdome. And so, yes, at 11 o'clock, I will keep an eye on Fanatis, and I will look at if it's on Fanatis or if it's on Fubo. Because Fubo, actually, tell you what, let me do this. Show me soccer. So let's do that. So the beauty of this cable system is you can talk into your remote, and it will sit there and go, U17 World Cup Austria and England is going on right now. That one is on FS2. You got the Deutsche Pokal. It is not showing up on anything. Okay, upcoming matches. It is, looks like it's on Shumo. So it's on Shumho Play and 4087. What is 4087? All right, so they hit the guide. 4087. What is that? Unbeaten. I've never heard of the Unbeaten channel ever. So on something called Unbeaten and on Shumho Play, if you have cable, that's where it's going to be. But I will check Fanatis in 22 minutes and see if it's going to be there as well. All right. Europe. We needed to get into Europe before the end of the day because we have a breakdown there in the World Cup. You've got 3, 6, 9, 10 matches, all at 2:45, last day of qualification. And we'll get into the positions and what to stare at when it comes to qualifying for the cup that the world is chasing after next year. So looking at Europe, let me get the grid out first. You've got the results and the standings. Okay, so standings, Europe. After what happened yesterday, we talked about it a little bit England might right now be the best team in Europe, but does that translate into a title? You're going to be at the top. Germany and Slovakia right now, they are through in Group A, 15 points, 12 points. Northern Ireland finished with 9 after losing 3 of 4 in one stretch. Group B, Switzerland, Kosovo, they're the 1 and the 2. We just don't know the order yet. And they're playing each other in Group B. Switzerland at 13 points. They're unbeaten in 5. Kosovo, after losing their first one, is unbeaten in their last 4. They've at 10 points. So Kosovo, really, they would need a win against Switzerland and to turn over a massive goal difference. So in reality, get 45 to 60 minutes out of your starters and let dudes play and figure out what happens there. Switzerland is plus 11 in goal difference compared to Kosovo right now. So even if Kosovo wins, you're not going to close that goal difference of 11 unless Switzerland just falls down on their face. Not anticipating that. Slovenia plays Sweden also for the 3 and the 4 slot in Group B. Group C, Denmark and Scotland. This is the game to watch. Denmark and Scotland right now. Denmark in Group C at 11 points. Scotland is at 10. Greece and Belarus, thanks for dropping by. Greece and Belarus are playing each other in Group C. Denmark right now, 11 points. Scotland is at 10. It's going to be at Hampden Park. The anthem is going to be amazing. So find that match. Watch that one. Group D complete. France and Ukraine. Iceland goes home with 7 points. Azerbaijan got 1 point, so 1 point in a draw. Spain, Turkey, Georgia, and Bulgaria in Group E. Spain, once again, up by 3 points over Turkey, 15 points to 12. Turkey, if they won, that's great on you, but you still would have to make up 14 goals in goal difference. That's not going to happen. Georgia at 1-0-4 is at 3 points. They play Bulgaria, who has not won, and they've only scored 1 goal in the entire tournament. Group F is done. Portugal and Ireland, 13 points and 10. Group G is done. It is Netherlands and Poland. Finland lost 3 of 4 to wrap up at 10 points. Bosnia-Herzegovina and Austria playing each other in Group H. We know that one of those is going to win the group. We know one of them is going to finish second. Austria at home, 18 points, and they're 8 up on goal difference. Bosnia-Herzegovina basically needs a win to go up against Austria. Romania and San Marino is the other match in the group. To wrap things up, San Marino has scored once. Romania has 10 points. Group I is done. It's Norway and Italy. Israel finished third in the group. Group J, Belgium, North Macedonia, and Wales. You got to keep an eye on this one because Belgium at 15 points, North Macedonia and Wales each with 13. Belgium is playing Liechtenstein. They should win. Liechtenstein has not scored. So that would put Belgium at 18 points. North Macedonia and Wales should be your second viewing experience. It is in Wales, both at 13 points. North Macedonia is plus 5 in goal difference compared to Wales. So one team wins, they go. The other one's probably fighting for a slot as one of the qualifiers. If it's a draw, you're thinking North Macedonia just because they're plus 5 in goal difference. Group K done, England and Albania. England did not surrender a goal in the entire group stage. Albania just beat out Serbia 14 points to 13. Croatia and Czech Republic make their way through in Group L. It is Croatia at 22 points, Czech Republic at 16. So your matches to look at, North Macedonia and Wales in Group J. Keep an eye on Belgium and Liechtenstein just because if Belgium was to stumble against Liechtenstein, which probably is not going to happen, but if they would, then that reintroduces a winner in North Macedonia and Wales in Group J. Then you end up with Austria and Bosnia-Herzegovina in Group H. Watch that one. And let's see, Spain and Turkey, but it's a big goal difference. And Denmark and Scotland. So Denmark and Scotland, you got to keep an eye on. Switzerland, Kosovo, you got to keep an eye on. And your juice boxes in those. Bosnia-Herzegovina is a big underdog at a plus 691. Austria is a minus 278. Belarus, a big dog. Greece is minus 294. Belgium is plus 10,000. Don't touch it. Georgia, a minus 130 at Bulgaria. Switzerland, a minus 109 at Kosovo. Romania, minus 5,000 hosting San Marino. I thought about wearing my San Marino sweatshirt today, but I thought against it. Scotland, plus 227 at home against Denmark at a plus 125. Spain, a minus 625 hosting Turkey. Sweden a -133 hosting Slovenia. Wales a -167 hosting North Macedonia. All of those at 245. Now, trying to grab this particular individual is like trying to grab onto a comet by the tail without any kind of asbestos-like gloves. It's like trying to catch water, like trying to catch rain through an open hand. One of the busiest people in all of show business, Jenn Hildreth. And I've known Jenn for like a year or two. And so we go back a ways. And so there she is. We have commandeered the busiest person in show business. Jenn, who the heck are you?
I'm great. How are you, John? And by the way, I was just in here like looking in the Instagram, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, oh he's going into the intro. Put it down. Get ready. Okay.
Well, no, you could have still been scrolling on your IG or the gram or the Insta or whatever the kids call it these days. I don't know.
I don't know.
Is there anything going on in the Insta that we need to know about?
Well, John, it is Tough Mother Tuesday. All right. So since the release of my book,
thank you for this intro, because I need to talk about this one author to another. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, Tough as a Mother, a book that I co-authored with Amy Leone, came out in April. And every Tuesday, we give a Tough Mother Tuesday post meant to just empower and encourage all working moms. That's what the book is all about too, through the lens of women in sports. So encourage everybody out there to follow Tough as a Mother book on Instagram, and you can get in on the fun.
So when you came up with this, how long had the idea of doing the book germinate in your head before you finally started delegating time to writing 1,000 words a day and doing all this kind of stuff? How long was this an idea before you started putting pen to paper?
Yeah, it was a long period because it was very personal for me, a very personal journey. That's how it all started. It was thinking about when I was a mom, first on the road, trying to navigate all of that struggle, breastfeeding on the road and the pumping, and then just dealing with being away from your child and your family. I mean, this job, I love this job, but that's a big part of it, is being on the road. So just navigating through all of that. And my oldest is 18 now, so that gives you an idea. Seriously, I was thinking about this when I was, just had her, a new mom, 18 years ago. So then I had the idea, and it's taken a lot of different forms along the way, but essentially it was COVID, where we all had a little extra time on our hands. And I finally said, I'm going to buckle down and write this thing. And it went through a lot of different phases and processes and no's from publishers. It's a soul crushing journey, as I'm sure you are familiar. And eventually, we got it all the way there. So really excited about it. I love how it came out, and it truly is meant to empower all moms, whether you like sports or not.
Because one of the things when we are piecing books together, it's the art of the jigsaw puzzle and trying to figure out, okay, this piece fits here, this piece fits here. Okay, this works well here. If I take this and move it down, does it fit? Literally, the jigsaw puzzle drives you crazy, and that's trying to make a book that makes sense from reading it from one aspect all the way through. That's probably one of the things that drives us the most crazy, is trying to figure out, okay, this makes sense to me, but I need to write it to make sense to everybody else who I need to buy this thing.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, I am eternally grateful for Amy Leone, is my co-author on this book. She's the SVP of Talent Relations at Fox Sports, and she and I just happened to cross paths, somewhere along this crazy journey of working motherhood. And we both brought our ideas together, and we balanced stuff off of one another. So we were really good judges for one another and helping with that. And then, you get the editor toward the end of the process, but pretty much it's still us driving the ship and what we want and our vision. So, because you have this great vision, this great idea, right? And then it's just a matter of, as you said, breaking it down in such a way that it translates to those who are reading it. And ours, we wanted to be really accessible to moms who don't have a lot of time. So it's broken down into small parts where each woman in sports, and there are close to 40, have their own chapter. They write in their own words, and you can pick it up and put it down in 15 minutes, So that was kind of how we settled on how this thing would go and what we wanted it to look like.
Does it help dads out as much as it does moms?
I think if you're a dad who wants to really, truly put yourself in the shoes of the mom that you are supporting, absolutely. Because sometimes it helps to hear it from someone else's voice than even just your own partner, right? So you get that sense of what they're going through. And dads do it. I in no way. We have some men in the book too who talk about it and share their side of the stories, because I think it is really important for men to read this, and it's important to support those men who are dads and working dads and a part of this family structure too. So yeah.
I mean, I had to ask. I mean, it's one of those things where you know that you're hitting an audience, you know that primary audience, but then there are those secondary audiences that you think if they want to take that step and invest and take the time to read, it will help them out. They may not know it at the time, but if you sit there and it's like, here, read this book, and you're sitting there going, man, why do I want to read this? But no, it's like, if you read this genuinely, you can honestly understand where the other person's coming from. It's almost like defensive driving in a way. Well, I mean, that's literally, it's like, a lot of folks will consider, say, going to therapy as defensive driving for everybody else. And so I think if you read books from the opposite perspective, I think it's just as effective defensive driving to understand where that other person's coming from. Where if it's like, look, okay, instead of sitting there and running all those stereotypes through your head, it's like, no, they're coming at it from this place. Understand that, and then you can have an informed response in kind, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. It's real, it's raw too. This is in no way a rah look at me. It's a, hey, look, we struggled too. We all are struggling with this, and sharing it. And I think that's where people really connect to it. And the thing, like, I keep telling my husband, who one day I will get to read the book. still working on that. He's great, but yeah, he has not picked it up yet. But I would tell people, like, okay, here's who you need to read. You need to read Mary Carrillo's chapter because you love tennis. Mm-hmm. So that's your connection point. Read what Mary has to say about being a mom. And then, you can pick it up and see if you want to learn some more along the way.
How hard was it to grab 40 and keep it to 40?
Yeah, it was tough. And it's not quite 40, but the way it all wound up, and, we're all busy. That's kind of like what comes with the territory. So yeah, it was years of doing these interviews, because I had some that I had done as early as probably 2020. And then we had to refresh and come back to them again. And then we had others, I call Amy my queen of connections. She knows everybody. She's one of those people, and she's wonderful, and people really connect with her. And so trying to track down people like Andrea Kramer, Alex Morgan, Dara Torres. I mean, there are some big name people in this book. And then there's also people you probably never heard of, CEOs or people behind the scenes. And we wanted to try to get a really wide range. So that was, as we were putting all the people together, it was like, are we diverse enough? Are we touching enough different stories and perspectives? Because we want everyone to feel represented. And I know we've gotten off on this great big tangent on the book. So thank you for letting me talk about it a little bit. It is still a passion project of mine, for sure.
No, but that's the thing. It's like, as a fellow author, and this being your first one, I feel it's important to sit there and, for folks that A, may not know about it, but B, at the same time, when it comes to understanding the creative process of piecing something like this together. And I mean, look, I've written 6, but I've got like 7 and 8 and 9 plotted, but I need to clone myself
I know
to get 7, 8, and 9 done. Literally 7 is halfway through, and I've got to update it. But it's like, okay, when am I going to have time to do that? And that's the biggest stumbling block in all of this stuff.
I know. I mean, I truly remember I'd get up an hour earlier. I'd stay up an hour later. Like, I would just carve time out, because it started during COVID, but it finished well after. I mean, it was just published this year. So it was just trying to carve out that time wherever I could get it. And it is tough to work that way, but come on, John, you got this.
Yeah. And then turning them into documentaries and full-blown projects that go 3-dimensionally sideways. Absolutely. All right. So then, now that you've written your first one, what's your next one?
I'm in no way prepared to think about that just yet. I'm still in the throes of the promotion of this one, which, like, I thought when you got that publishing date, it was like, yay, finish line. Instead, it's like, oh, guess what? You're just starting another lap of, now you got to let everybody know it's out there. So yeah, I don't know. If we get the response we think we'll get to this, when it continues to reach more people, maybe we do another one, because I know there's lots of other moms out there that we did not get in this book that we could get for the next one.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye out for book number 2 and the continued promotional tour for book number 1. And the main reason, one of the main reasons we wanted to bring you in, is what is across your chest in the sweatshirt that you're wearing. They're down to the final 2. And I want to get into some of the other franchises and big decisions that happened in a bit. But walking into this playoff, if I had told you it was going to be Gotham and Washington that were going to be in the final, what would you have said at the beginning of the playoffs?
Beginning of the playoffs, possible.
Okay.
But not likely.
Okay.
I mean, Gotham's the 8th seed.
But are they 8th, though?
Are they truly an 8? Is that what you said?
Yeah, they truly an 8.
They truly are.
Okay.
With the performance that they had during the year, they are.
Okay.
Like, that was the season they had. Do they have the skill to be much better than that? Absolutely. Do they have this wonderful team chemistry, which is an intangible that really comes out in the playoffs? They've shown that, but this team has not consistently been able to perform throughout the season, and that's why they were the 8th seed. I mean, every team went through ups and downs, but let's be honest. The second that Kansas City got knocked out of the playoffs by Gotham, it was open to anybody because, hands down, Kansas City was the best team in the league this year. That is not even up for debate. It's one of the best regular seasons in NWSL history that Kansas City put together. However, Kansas City without Temu Shawinga is a different team.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened to them right at the end of the season, where they really didn't have a chance to adapt to it. Happened to the Orlando Pride, losing Barbara Banda, but that was in August. They struggled for the next 6 games, didn't get a win. They figured it out. They got that goal production back up through other people. Kansas City never had that chance. And then to compound that, they lose Michelle Cooper. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Gotham because I thought they played one of their best games in that quarterfinal at Kansas City. It was the game plan executed beautifully. But I think it's anybody's championship to win the second Kansas City gets knocked out.
Did the Vlatko decision to step away from coaching and just go upstairs, how big of a surprise was that in league circles that you were able to glean?
Yeah, I was surprised. Our whole broadcast crew, I remember we were all texting back and forth about it. And I read Jeff Kassouf's article for ESPN, and I trust Jeff. He's covered this league a long, long time, and it gave me some more context into it, which at least made it sound like, from Kansas City's perspective, look, this was a move that was in the works for a while. They wanted to move Vlatko into this role and let someone else deal with the day-to-day and the coaching. Is that true? I don't know. Did they just want to make a change because they came this close again after a great regular season and couldn't get it done? Maybe. But I mean, I think Vlatko's the coach of the year. I will have arguments with people about that, but I think he's the coach of the year. I really enjoy what he does as a coach. So I'd say there's some surprise, but I also feel like maybe this was a move that was going to happen regardless.
So then if you're Kansas City and you're looking at the coach that goes into that slot, I would think that worldwide, with that roster being healthy at 100%, that this is one of the places that anybody would want to jump into. And it's not just something where you're looking inside NWSL in an insular fashion. You can open this one up and sit there and say, hey, Serena Wiegman, as an example.
Yes.
It's that kind of an impact player that you can bring into Kansas City if they want to spend that kind of money.
I think it is only that level of person that we're looking at here, because Kansas City is not going to mess around with that group that they have and understanding the roster and the potential that is there. You're absolutely right. It should be one of the top coaches worldwide. That is all that they're considering. Like, they are not going to, I'd be shocked if they took an assistant coach from anywhere. They want an established winning coach, one of these names people are talking about. If they could get Emma Hayes away from the U.S. national team, like, we're talking that type of level, which they won't. But, that is where I think that team is looking at. Who that is, I don't know. The Spain coach, and her name escapes me at the moment, but I can picture her. Mm-hmm. That name's been floated around. I don't know if that's right. I think one thing, though, is you have to know this league. You have to understand this league. So it has to be somebody with some ties to the NWSL in some way, because this league is different. It just is. And you need to understand what you're up against.
Yep. And so you mentioned a name, and that kind of rings a bell a little bit because of something that, is kind of hanging over my shoulder. And I don't know if you know this, but in 2028, there's going to be a franchise added to the NWSL. And
yes.
It's going to be in a town that you and I both know intimately. I'm thinking, hey, why not? Emma, if you're kind of tired with the national team come, say, 2027 after the World Cup, you finish that World Cup cycle in 27. I could picture a conversation with Emma Hayes and a gentleman by the name of Arthur M. Blank. Could you imagine if Emma Hayes it's like, hey, look, you got this nice building here that allegedly is going to have only 28,000. And they're going to open that lower bowl. You know, and I both know that 100 and 200 level, that 41,000, that's going to be visible every single week come 2028. I mean, I appreciate them saying 28,000. No, that's going to be your season ticket base come 2028. But I'm thinking, I'm spitballing here. Like
it's big. I like it.
I have no intel on this whatsoever. Maybe we just start talking about it right now. Hey, Emma, when you get tired after 27, if you're tired, don't want to go through another cycle, just kind of hang in the same town that has the Federation HQ. I'm just saying.
I mean, I like that plan, Emma. Just keep that in the back of your mind, okay? Get out there and win another World Cup, and then hang them up. Come back to club soccer.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have to leave town or nothing. You can just, it's like you go see everybody down there in Fayetteville and sit there and say hi to everybody on the fields. But no, you get the big barn up here in downtown that you can hang out. Like I said, I'm just saying, just out there. Yeah. This weekend, when it comes to the title game, what are you looking at with the 8th seed in Washington? And I will have a Trinity Rodman follow-up question after this. But when you see this matchup, what sticks in your head? What are the keys to victory? If you and I are in the booth and we run that tombstone down low, keys to victory, what are the keys for you?
I truly think that the team that is willing to put a little more into their attack will, in the end, and when they do it, can they do it at the right time?
Yeah.
And can it pay off? Both of these teams are very sound defensively. However, Washington has definitely had to make some more adjustments here as of late. Gabby Carl being out, that's a big loss for them. Tara McKeown, maybe not at quite 100%. She's the leader of that back line. So I think Gotham has proven they are very sound defensively. That center back pairing of Jess Carter and Emily Sonnet, I mean, best in the league, those two. So they're going to hold it down defensively. Gotham has been doing that. I mean, if you look at Gotham's numbers, and I mean, obviously I have an intimate look at their last 3 games. Actually, I've called the last 3 of them. They have less XG. They have fewer shots. They are fewer touches in the opposition box. Pretty much every attacking category, less than, except the one that counts in the end, which is they find a way to get goals. They had 1 shot on goal, 1 in that semifinal at Orlando. And it was a free kick that bounced in.
Yeah.
So things going right, they're figuring out. But anyway, so what I want to see, what I always want to see in a game, and I think it's going to be low scoring. I mean, I called these two in the regular season. It was 0-0. Neither of them really gambled. They were smart. They were conservative. They knew each other. Is somebody going to gamble and pick the right time to do so? And are they going to be able to execute it? That's what I'm looking for. I think it is going to be very low scoring. I think we're talking 1-0. If it goes into extra time, and so if it stays regulation or extra time, I don't see how you bet against Gotham. I just don't. I can't anymore. Even though Washington is the favorite. They had the better season. They deserve the 2nd seed that they have. If I look at their team player for player, both of these teams have tremendous rosters. But I look at that Washington team, and I think especially firepower-wise, they've delivered more often. Okay, so that gives me encouragement. Now, Gotham, though, what they've done the last 2, you cannot bet against this team. You just can't. They dare you to. Underdog my ass, as Jaden Shaw would say. Right? Okay. I can actually say it. Well, hopefully.
Yes, you can. No. Look, we get the E rating all the time.
Okay.
So there's no worries, Jen.
But look, if this goes to a shootout, then I think you got to go Washington, because Aubrey Kingsbury in a shootout is the queen. Aubrey Kingsbury, the queen. It's been incredible. She has saved 5 of the last 6 penalties she has faced in a shootout. And that includes the semifinal last year, where Gotham had one of the worst shootout performances ever against Washington, and they lost 3-0 in the shootout. So anyway, there you go. I don't know if I gave you, is it picking the moments? Is it finding Trinity Rodman? If she plays, how much does she play? Can Esther get more involved for Gotham? Because she was pretty much non-existent in that semifinal, and she'd missed the previous 3 games. She's 2nd in the Golden Boot. They have to get her touches. They didn't do that in that semifinal. So I think finding those moments, and there's not going to be many of them, but can they find them? Can they execute? That's going to be the difference in this match.
Is the league at a financial crossroads, considering what Trinity Rodman might be demanding or asking for when it comes to salary figures? Where is the NWSL right now?
Well, we're a league that has a salary cap. I mean, and that is part of what makes this league the most competitive league in the world, is because you get an 8 seed that comes into the playoffs and can compete and knock off the 1 seed and be just as competitive and good. I mean, the salary cap is both what strengthens this league, and it's also, it's difficult. It's going to hold you back when big players like Trinity Rodman, and it's not so much that she's going to demand this from Washington. It's that she's going to say, look, this is what I'm getting offered from here. Can you match it?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? And, you know, do they pony up somehow, scrape together ways, get creative, Messi-esque Miami?
Yes.
You know, like, is there a way to do that? Well, if there is, you're going to see it happen, because Trinity Rodman right now is the most important player for this league. And what happens with her is big. You know, I think the league is going to be great and strong regardless, but they really, really need to keep Trinity Rodman here. And can they find a way to do it? If anybody can do it, it's probably Michelle Kang.
I'm thinking an NIL kind of a deal. I'm glad you opened that door. You come up with an NIL kind of a deal when it comes to seeing Trinity Rodman selling, you know, whatever insert product here. And I could see, I think that's the door that you open. You turn it one of those 3-dimensional kind of deals where it's salary plus endorsement under the league umbrella, and then everything fits. And then what you do is you send that kind of a notice to all the other players worldwide. Hey, we're doing this with this player. We can do this with you as well. It gives the opportunity for folks either A, to come in for the first time, B, to come back, or C, stay. I think that's key to this whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. And I sure hope we do get a chance to keep seeing Trinity play. And I hope she plays a lot this weekend. They teased that, didn't they, with her coming on in stoppage time with the pink hair last week. So we'll see.
Okay, so if you would please cut the promo with everything going on in the Jenn Hildreth universe, and let us know what's going on with you these days. Author, stud, broadcaster, the whole thing. What's going on?
You know what's going on right now? A break. Yay. I am so excited. Okay, so I just had the semifinal in Orlando. I bet you can guess where I snuck off to for like half a day.
The Orlando airport, going from people mover to people mover, trying to pick out a plane when you can get out of town.
Yeah, that too. But I got a little Disney time in there. So, I mean, I'm just so excited to have some downtime with family, obviously keeping an eye on NCAA because I have College Cup. That actually is my next event, is Women's College Cup. And that's the first weekend in December back in Kansas City. And it was already, my partner, Leanne Sanderson, called it the coldest she has ever been when we were there for that quarterfinal. And I'm already terrified of what it's going to be like for the College Cup. But anyway, so I'm keeping half an eye on College Cup. Obviously still talking a lot about book promotion and trying to figure out where we're going, what we're doing next with that. And then just hanging with my family and enjoying some time. And then basketball for me kicks in also mid-December.
Yes, and we actually had Kacey White comes in.
Yeah,
that lead off on Tuesdays, and so we got her to talk about brackets. And so as we get closer to College Cup, obviously you know where the key is under the mat. You know where the garage door opener is. You know you can crash at any time. But leading into College Cup, we'd like to have you come back and talk about things before and after, and do all the things. And look, pretty much come in whenever you want.
You know what? Like, can we double guess? Can Kacey and I both come? Kacey's going to be there too. She's going to be there for the semifinals.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kacey D traditionally comes in 9:15 on Tuesdays. That's her slot to talk about anything and everything. It's NWSL, college, whatever. Literally, we went through the brackets on the men's side and the women's side. We blew that up this morning. So the answer to that is yes, in a run-on sentence form. So come on in. We'll figure out a time. If KCD can push things back, if Owen doesn't want to go out for a walk or can stay inside because it's too cold and not want TREATs, then certainly, absolutely, stay.
Or maybe, you know what, John, like maybe we could even do it together, depending where Kacey and I are and what our schedule looks like. We'll have to talk about that. We'll plan. Either way, yes, we'll for sure have some College Cup conversation as we get there. Okay,
so go by the book. Not you, but everybody else paying attention. Go by. Oh, there it is. Shiny. Now, how do I get an autographed copy of this?
You know, you just have to send me your address, John. We can work that out. I got you.
Sweet.
But Amazon for everybody else. And if you want a signed copy too, just reach out to me on Instagram. We'll figure it out.
And well, Jenn, as always, it's great to see you, my friend. It's always great to see you kicking ass on all the levels that you are, the kicking assness. And like I said, do not be a stranger. That's what we're here for on the morning show. We believe in Turner time, and I know we went long. So go get your morning coffee and Danish and brunch and whatever, and we'll catch up with you just before College Cup. Great to see you, my friend.
Great to see you too. Always appreciate being on.
All right, there goes Jenn Hildreth, everybody. And Jenn survived the morning show. She literally survived the morning show. And yeah, Jenn and I go back a year or two when it comes to, I mean, we've covered high school sports together in the state of Georgia. We've been around anything and everything. But yes, so before College Cup, it's going to be Jenn and Kacey D, and it's just going to be a 2-on-1 odd man rush, and they're just going to overpower the entire segment, as well they should. So as always, great to catch up with Jenn. I have to text Jenn my address so I can get a copy of the book autographed, and we can have it here in the studio and show it off and all of the things. That's how this works. Okay, so I'm trying to see if there's anything else that we. BR Football. It was noticed BR Football on the 280 character app, which is now back up and running. TNT is going to get their first ever World Sevens in North America. Thank you, Ricky. Friday, December 5 to December 7. 8 leading teams in the women's game facing off in a 3-day 7v7 tournament, Fort Lauderdale. TNT, True, and Max. It is going to be, let's see. So it's Tigres, Toronto, Kansas City. Was it Flamingo? Club America, Deportivo Cali, and Club Nacional, and San Diego Wave. So there you go. That's going to be fun. If we weren't doing high school football and things like that this time of year, Grupo A and Grupo B, Fort Lauderdale, December 5 through 7, 2025. All right. So, that's right. I was supposed to watch Fanatis now that we're 11 o'clock. Hang on. Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Let's see. Time to log in. And let's see. What do we have live? So if it's Fanatis, it is not on Fanatis unless it's on BN. And BN has paddle tennis. And it's not on Goal, so it's not on Fanatis. It might be on Fubo. Well, actually, no. Didn't we say it was on some weird-sounding channel that we've never been knowing before? Show me soccer. So hang on. It was the Unbeaten or whatever it was. So Austria and England going on right now. FIFA World Cup, Unbeaten. And we go to Shumho Play, and we'll see if we can. I'm going to go to Shumho because I know what Shumho is on my cable system. I've never heard of Unbeaten before in my entire life. I have no clue what Unbeaten is. See, well, and it's someone called Calgary and see if we can use Flame. Jarrett had the idea of doing Athena, to where you have the Atlanta Apollos and you have the Athena. You have Athena. So you look at Athena and you do something like that. So that's so I'm thinking Athena. That'd be epic. You go Apollo, Athena. So, all right. So Shumo Play is loading. We'll see if it's there, and we will load that up. So, yes, David, that might have kind of lived here a few years. So we get Emma Hayes to stay. Just thinking right now. Just Emma Hayes, NWSL ATL. See, I'm left-handed. I've got to go like this, but I can't. I've got to go. I've got to lean to my left and point there. So Emma Hayes, we're starting it right now. Emma Hayes, NWSL ATL, right there. So that's what we're hunting for. That was just an idea that literally popped into my head as we were going. So NWSL ATL, yes, it is up. Okay, so, and it's on Unbeaten. So Shumho is going to this thing called Unbeaten, and it's there. Iraq and UAE, 11th, 12th minute, tied at 1, no score. So that's where we are. Let me see here. Unbeaten, also known as the Ugandan Taxman channel. Absolutely true, David. So morning, Ricky. Morning, David. Morning, Abby. And let's see what else is here. We mentioned the Atlanta United moves. Morning, Dell. Morning, David. And let's see who else is in this morning. UK and UL. Let's see. Morning, Abby. Morning, Ricky. As I'm going backward in order. So trying to see if there's anybody else that is in. So let's see. Morning, David. And so let's see. Yes, I did mention. So it's David, Abby, Dell, and Ricky, and RJ's Modern Life. So there we go. All right. So that's the rundown for today. Come back once again tomorrow. But once we're going to watch Unbeaten, whatever Unbeaten is as a channel, because it's got Iraq and UAE. So we're watching that. Then you got everything at 2:45 in Europe. You got everything at 8 o'clock tonight in CONCACAF with CONCACAF Thunderdome. We'll talk about it all tomorrow and find out who survives. So once again, tomorrow, Tyler Pilgrim, 9:15. See if Dylan Butler can join us at 10. You'll hear from Jason Stevens about the economics of soccer. And when MCOs fail, Bill Foley and Fenway Sports Group will talk about that tomorrow. Obviously, we're also chasing a bunch of other folks when it comes to what's going to be happening this weekend in Major League Soccer, all the things. Once again, it was a great show. Thanks to KCD. Thanks to Jenn Hildreth. Thanks to Darrius Barnes and finding out what's going on up there at Grand Rapids in MLS Next Pro as they get ready for the 2027 season. So for everybody here, thanks again for tuning in last night for soccer over there. We're going to go watch some qualifiers and find out who makes it into the Asian qualifiers on this channel called Unbeaten that we've never heard of before. See you in less than 22. Mucha Plati, I'll play it safe. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. We'll see you later. Catch you again on Wall Pass Wednesday. Bye.